Hello and welcome to Business Without Bullshit. I'm Andy Uri and today we are joined by Kevin Gaskell. With an impressive track record in building and leading successful companies, Kevin is known as the man who fixes businesses. As CEO of Porsche, Lamborghini and BMW in the UK, Kevin led the companies to hugely successful turnarounds and business growth. He remains actively involved in numerous companies worldwide as both a founder, investor and chairman, currently including the UK's fastest growing fibre network provider. Today, Kevin and his team have created over 4 billion in shareholder value, making him one of the UK's top 40 leaders. Kevin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks very much. Great to be here.
Very nice CV there. It feel good?
Well, you know what they say about the CV? Your mum likes it and your wife laughs at it. So it's,
I've never heard that actually.
it is what it is. You know, I just go from business to business and have fun doing it.
And at the moment in your life, I mean, obviously you seem to do sort of many things, but in your moment in life, what's getting your attention more than anything else, do you think?
Well, I think ITS, which is a fibre business, is taking a lot of my time. But it's a great company. It's growing dramatically.
Is that fibre in this country? Or?
Yeah. We build fibre networks. We build major fibre networks.
Okay. Colt Telecom, I always think of like one of the only people who did it originally, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and then they were bought out by Virgin eventually.
I don't know if they were, but they're big in London. We cover the strip really, London to Manchester and beyond. We own that. We do B2B. We provide the big pipes, and then the B2C players who would come and fix network into your house, they come backhaul into us. So
do you think we're pretty crap in this country at infrastructure?
I think we are getting better.
Oh, good.
I was shocked when I first came into the sector to realize that only 4%, this is 8 years ago, only 4% of the UK was fibred.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because that's what I'm thinking of. It was a while ago when I looked at this, but yeah, it was like who had built a fibre network that was like a little bit of BT or something, and then Colt had gone and done it like in 2000 or 90s or something like that, and then no one else had really done anything, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the alt nets, as they call us, the alternative networks, we've been coming now for 10 years or so and taking on more and more share.
Does that mean you're one of the people digging up our roads everywhere?
Do you know, one of the USPs of our business is we try to use existing infrastructure. So if there's already a duct, we'd rather put our fibre down the duct than go and dig the street up. Digging the street up is expensive at two levels. One, it's costly to dig a hole in the road. And two, as you've just said, it cheeses everybody off. And so they associate your brand with being a nuisance. So we try not to do it.
Yeah, no, it's tricky, and it's been really bad in the last few months in London, and I don't know whether they decide to do it all in the summer, but I mean, it's laughable at times. But I remember also reading ages ago, it was like, well, in 1980 there were only 4 or 5 companies that could dig up the road, and now there's like 200 that can do it, and no one collaborates on it. So ITS is getting your attention. I mean, what's worrying you? What bothers you at night?
Well, beyond ITS, I have 4 other companies that I'm involved with. And I think the key theme of being an entrepreneur is cash flow. It's having enough money to drive the business forward and keep it growing, because we start off as small companies. ITS started off as a very small company 8 years ago. Now it's a big company, but that's required investment upon investment. And it's similar in my other businesses. We need to keep maintaining the funds. And so cash flow is finding investors to come and help us entrepreneurs to build businesses is really probably what I spend 75% of my time thinking about.
Okay. And, cash flow is sort of the endless problem and stuff. Is that your responsibility in some of these companies?
No, it is. I mean, I'm chairman in these businesses. And so my responsibility is making sure we have a relationship between the operating company and the shareholders and the investors so that they continue to support us.
Okay. And at the start of this journey, where did you sort of start in terms of your business career? What did you train at something or yeah?
Yeah, I'm a civil engineer.
Oh, are you?
Yeah,
okay.
I build structures. I used to. Okay. So I always wanted to be a civil engineer. I went to university knowing I wanted to be a civil engineer. Studied it, loved it, enjoyed it, and became a civil engineer and did it for 3 or 4 years and then realized I didn't want to be a civil engineer. Because I wanted to build these magnificent structures. I was actually putting road gullies in the side of a motorway, and that didn't have the same thrill.
I think a lot of professions are like that, aren't they? Architects, a lot of engineering. I did mechanical engineering. My father-in-law is a professor of civil engineering.
There you go.
And similar sort of. He ended up in academia after doing it in work. And then how did you end up? I mean, very exciting. CEO of Porsche, Lamborghini, and BMW. Are they all owned by BMW? Were they?
No.
So you were CEO, one after the other, or something?
So how I got into the automotive sector was having been a civil engineer for some time. I wanted to get another broader skill. And my university very kindly offered to sponsor me to do an MBA. So I went back to university, studied on an MBA, and came out thinking, right, well, there's one of two things I can do here to give myself a broader commercial base. One would be law, and one would be accountancy. And I thought, I don't enjoy law, so accountancy would be more interesting. So I went to
How wrong you were. No, actually, probably you were right, actually. But
I don't know. We're sitting here in a lawyer's office.
And accountants.
Accountants.
We do both. So you're in the right place to debate that out.
Okay, well, we'll talk about it on coffee afterwards.
Yeah.
But I saw a job ad for somebody who was looking for an engineer who could understand accountancy. I applied to the company, which is called Dow Corning. And to my surprise, they took me on. And on the way home from the interview, literally, those days there wasn't so much of an internet capability. I called into W.H. Smith. I bought 2 Teach Yourself Accountancy books and studied those for the next 6 weeks and joined as an accountant. And I was there for 4 years studying certified accountancy at night school. I got bored of that. And Porsche were looking for somebody who could understand accountancy, understand engineering, to be the interface between some of the departments. So I joined Porsche. I went in as a kind of regional manager, and over the next 5 years found myself doing more and more and more until the business got in all kinds of trouble. I mean, serious.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, it was in terrible
That
condition.
surprises me. What year is this?
This would be 1992-ish.
Surprises me with a brand and a product like Porsche.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got one of the greatest products, and they haven't had to change it that much,
No, and you're right to be surprised. But those of us inside could see the business kind of falling apart around us.
Why was it falling?
Lack of product strategy. Lack of strategy.
But
really.
wait, that's all fed from Germany, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay. Germany had lost the plot.
Yeah, but Germany owned the UK operation, so we were a subsidiary of the parent.
Lack of product strategy. This is Porsche. I mean, they make the same freaking car. I mean, now they've gone into other things, but it was like, they make mid-engine sports cars, best in the world.
But not only. They had the 924 and the 944, and those were aged, the 928, all front-engined, and those cars had reached the end of their natural life, and nobody had brought anything behind them.
Right.
And so the business did get itself in a mess, lost sight of the customer. I mean, to give you an idea, out of 32 brands in the marketplace, we were number 32 in customer satisfaction.
Wow.
Yeah. We were losing 20% on everything we sold. And I had 3 years.
Things weren't breaking down, customer satisfaction. They were just,
It was just poor. There was a degree of arrogance in the business, and It was just poor. And the day I was appointed, I had 3 years worth of unsold new car inventory. Mm-hmm. So it was a pretty desperate situation. And the job was turn it around. I was a young guy, 32 years old, without a Scooby of what I was doing. I'd gone in to meet the board and got annoyed and said, you should fix this. This needs fixing. And they said, what would you do? I spent 4 hours on a flip chart explaining what I would do, together with my finance colleague. I was head of operations at that point. And they asked me to leave the room. And I thought, okay, well, they're going to fire me. And 10 minutes later, they got me back in and they said, right, you're the new chief exec. He's the new finance director. That's the plan. Make it happen.
No way.
And that's what we did. And,
Wow.
And in 4 years, we turned it around from number 32 to number 1 in customer satisfaction.
What was the plan, roughly? Was it just like...
Well, get the cost base down was number 1.
Yeah.
Because we were hemorrhaging and dying.
Yeah.
Number 2 was love the customer. Love the customer. People, price is not a number. It's an experience. You come in and spend 50, 60, 80, 100,000 pounds on a car, you expect an experience.
Yeah, so true.
We needed to learn we weren't selling cars. I'm not selling transport. You want transport, buy a Golf. Golf's a great car. Go drive a Golf. But if you want an experience, that's what we should be providing. And so that was what we changed. We loved the dealers. I brought the dealers kind of in-house. Instead of them being out there, they came in. put some of them onto our board, and people told me I was crazy. What are you doing? Put in the dealers. I said, but if they don't make money, we don't make money.
How does it, I mean, to explain to people, roughly how does it work? Because the automotive industry is kind of quirky like that. You know, I mean, they have dealers who get sort of almost forced to buy stock, don't they? And how does it roughly work?
They get allocated a marketing area.
Okay.
And then...
But they're independent, the dealers, are they?
Yeah,
they come along and say, I'd like to be a dealer and wherever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're independent companies.
Okay.
And in those days, they were far smaller businesses than they are now. Now they're mostly PLCs.
Really?
The groups have taken over.
Okay.
I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm simply saying that's what's happened.
Yeah.
The whole sector's professionalized. They've become large
Is that
groups.
what PLCs are? Oh.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
So it's a different form now. But yeah, they were independent businesses, and we needed to let them understand that if they weren't profitable, I knew if they weren't profitable, we would never be profitable. And so we transformed the relationship.
So who's the customer though to you? You know, isn't the dealer's customer is the customer, isn't it? I mean, I know you're actually meaning the real customer, but in a way, your customers are the dealers.
Yes, and we had to kind of run two tracks. But what we also started to do was communicated much more effectively with the drivers. So we would
the customer, the end user,
the end user of the car.
Yeah.
So we would bring them into head office. We'd show them why these cars are spectacular. We'd explain the brand. We'd explain the heritage, and we just got the passion back into the business.
Yeah,
you know, it's a passion brand.
Yeah.
Nobody needs a Porsche. It's something you choose to buy because you want to drive.
Because you want to get laid.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. No, I mean, I think you're so right. You can do that with so many brands, can't you? You can run down a list and say, these people don't sell this. They sell experience. They don't, you know. And I mean, you know, I had a Tesla Model 3 and it got, it was parked.
Were the buyer.
It was parked and run into literally by crackheads, unlicensed. And I was happened to be around the corner when it happened. So, I mean, it's the most, and I've even got footage of it. It was the most mad shit. And they flipped a car in Hackney, like next to mine, and car up and everything. Anyway, you know, I ended up then having to like replace it. We ended up replacing it with a Kia. And when we went to pick up the Kia, you know, they were kind of like, well, there it is. You know, it's still an expensive car.
Sure.
And I was like, have you got one of those sheets? And you because I brought my little 5-year-old son and I was like, you're supposed to like pull a sheet off and there's supposed to be this car. And they were like, yeah, we've been thinking about getting one of those. And I was thinking, exactly as you're saying, I'm like, they're missing the magic. I'm having a shit experience here.
Yeah, it's the
experience. It's like I may as well be buying a pack of pasta right now, you know? And the experience is everything, you know, making that sort of magical feeling. Amazing. So you did it at Porsche and then what? You basically you know got the customers excited again. You can't affect the product though very much.
We did. We did. Yeah, we did.
You went over to see Germany or something.
Oh yeah, there was daily conversations.
Yeah. Was Germany struggling in every market, or was it just happened to be the UK? Or?
Well, it was a kind of a global recession at that point, and so they were having a tough time everywhere. But yeah, in terms of product definition and product strategy, we spent a lot of time with the factory talking about what we needed, what we should do. We introduced a car called the 968, which was really the last derivation of the 944, the front engine car. And what was clear was at that time, there was a special car tax. So above £29,000, you got incremental tax. And I said to the factory, we need a car under 29,000. And at that time, the 968
that was still a reasonable amount of money.
Still a reasonable amount of money. The 968 had been launched at 35,000. I said, no, I need it under 29. And they said, we can't do it. It's impossible. I said, no, you don't understand. This is an existential issue. I need a car in this price range. And anyways, we went through months of back and forth, and German engineers, being what they are, sensational engineers, they want to re-engineer. I said, no, just take everything out of it.
Yeah.
Just take everything out.
All of the extras.
We can't sell a cheap Porsche, but what we can do is create something that's a lightweight Porsche. And so we created this vehicle called the 968 Club Sport, where we've taken everything out. We put 2 racing seats back in, cheap plastic seats. We put steel wheels on it. We just stripped the cost out of it, but we made the car
fast.
Well, it was astonishing in terms of its handling capability. And it became Car of the Year, which, you know,
no way.
Yeah, it was a 25-year-old car, really, and it won Car of the Year, which was extraordinary. But that was kind of the first step back into being accepted.
What car of the year, or
It was auto car.
The auto car. Don't they normally award a sort of family car of the year?
Yeah. Well,
there we go.
I remember Steve Cropley came in. He was the key journalist there. He came in, had lunch with me. Kev, he said, "Kev, I got something I need to tell you. We're making the 968 Club Sport car of the year." I was like, "Wow." Fantastic.
I guess the thing was partly you can get a Porsche for an affordable price, and it's a Porsche,
and you can hold your head up because it might be the lowest in terms of cost, but it's superb in terms of performance. And I remember we showed it at the motor show. We put Club Sport up the side of it in a decal this big, and people started buying it. It's only available in five colors. And people started buying this car. Suddenly we were selling the car. We were delivering the car. And then we were getting calls from customers and from the dealer saying, "Where's the decal?" We said, "What, you really want?" "Oh, yeah. So we had to put the guy out on the road, going around to customers' drivers' homes.
You're meaning the writing along the side.
The big writing, huge writing, Club Sport,
And they wanted it on the side.
4 feet long.
I think I remember this car. I mean, I certainly know the front engine ones when you talk about them because they're the Porsches who look like normal cars. Do you know what I mean?
Worth a lot of money these days.
Are they?
Yeah, the Club Sport is worth a lot of money.
Interesting.
So we went out fitting Club Sport.
How did you find working with the Germans? What would your advice be to working with the Germans at that kind of level? So we're talking sort of big corporate level, I guess.
Yeah, big corporate level. I mean, Porsche was a family business, so it's owned by the family.
Is it still?
It's not now. It's gone into the VAG group in the last 5 years or so. But it was very much a family company. And so it was very friendly. It was very friendly. And you could speak directly to Mr. Porsche or Mr. Piech, who were the owners. And I would speak to them frequently, once a month. I mean, this was very direct communication. So the relationship with Porsche was always great. BMW was a different story because much bigger company. I got headhunted out of Porsche to go and run BMW GP, much bigger business. And I took with me the kind of, not quite anarchic, but creative approach to how we were going to change things. And, they'd come to me and said, "Kev, we want you to run it." I know they didn't run a process. They just grabbed me and said, "We want you to run this business." Great. Fantastic. I was ready to go, ready to move. I'd been at Porsche for 10 years. So I went to BMW. And I inherited a plan to grow the business at kind of 4% per annum. And I thought, well, that's boring. And we can do much better than that. And so I started to challenge and ask questions of the leadership team, who were all great people, but they were used to growing at that rate. And I said, "Kev, we're doing all right. You don't need to," "Yeah, but we could do so much better." And so I started to ask questions, and I can remember getting questions from the main board in Germany saying, "Kev, don't knock this thing off the rails. This is a very profitable business." And I said, "Yeah, but we could do better." And cut a long story short, it took me a couple of years to learn how to manage the German board because they thought in perfect squares. They're amazing engineers and everything was perfect. But
Order.
And I needed to explain to them how I could do it within the square. And over the next 4 years, instead of growing at 4%, we grew the business by 80%.
80.
And we grew operating profit by 500%.
Whoa. 80% growth in a year is insane.
No, not in a year. Cumulative over the 4 years.
Okay. That's still a lot.
It was a lot.
A lot.
When you think that, they were expecting 4% per annum.
Yeah. So you were doing 20% a year or
something
whatever.
like that, whatever it was, yeah.
Okay.
And then...
What was the secret to that?
Understanding the customer.
So that's always the focus, just focus on what the customer wants.
Focus on what the customer wants. And,
and to do that, do you go out and do like customer survey or what? How do you collect that knowledge?
You go and meet the customers.
Just meet them and talk to them.
I mean, we had
existing customers?
Yeah, we had for example, I said to the team, "Tell me about our company car strategy, selling fleet cars." And they said, "We don't do fleet cars." I said, "Okay, let me ask you the question a different way around. How many of our cars are sold to corporate buyers?" "Oh, 60%. "Oh, so we do corporate. We do fleet." "Oh, yeah, but we don't call it fleet." "Okay."
Why not?
Yeah, no, because that's what the volume manufacturers do.
Oh, we wouldn't dare do that.
And we're BMW. So I said, "Okay, all right, I respect that. And we need to maintain the premium and the prestige of our brand, but we need to improve the way we deal with these people." And so, for example, at the time, our biggest customer then was BT, and they would buy 1,500 cars every year.
Yeah, BMW is like a classic sort of, it's a high-end brand, but it's a sort of slightly affordable. It's a classic salesman's car, isn't it?
It's the car that every salesman wants.
Yeah.
And And that was great. But what we were doing was trying to manage it to a price, total cost of ownership price.
Total cost of ownership price to who? To the customer?
To the fleet manager.
To the fleet manager.
So the fleet manager.
Oh, to say, right, we'll do you all these cars and it will cost you £1 million.
It'll cost you this much. It'll cost you this much per year to run.
Right. Because these are leases.
These are leases. So it's total cost of ownership. So what we did was I said, well, let's look at it the other way around. What is it? What is the biggest cost of running that car? And actually it's depreciation. That's a bigger individual cost than anything else. Well, why are these cars depreciating? Because the answer was because what we were providing was, well, you can have any color as long as it's red, white, black, or blue, and you get steel wheels and you get plastic seats and it's cheap. Yeah, but when they come back after 2.5 years, nobody in the used car market wants them, so they depreciate quickly.
Oh, okay. The used car market. So you would sell them the basic BMW.
So
basically.
we were almost manufacturing a base car for this big customer. And I said, well, let's look at it the other way around. What if we were to improve the spec of the car? It would reduce the depreciation. Total cost of ownership would actually be smaller, and we'd have cars by definition that the market wants to use a car.
Oh, I see. Because they could then sell it back to you in the 4 years, and you'd say, "Well, we can flog these, or we'll because the lease would end, and we'll have them back, and we'll." What do they do generally? Then sell them on the second-hand market?
Well, they don't. We do.
Yeah. What would you do? You would then sell it on the second-hand car market.
We would distribute them through the dealers. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But it was taking that kind of approach, taking the view of the customer, and adapting. And what happened was we sold more cars, we made more money.
And did I miss that? So the customer, the fleet guy had said to you, I'd like a better quality car?
No, the fleet guy said, I want a car that costs me less to run over a period of time.
Fine.
And because depreciation was the biggest
factor, that's the way to reverse engineer it, basically. Clever. Okay.
That's just one example. I mean, we did lots of other things, but fundamentally what we did was listen to the customers.
Is stubborn the right word? There's something about you that it's not very you don't get sort of pushed along with oh, this is how it's done. It's like,
oh, me personally?
No,
I'm a stubborn arse.
You're like, well, who says?
Yeah,
kind
exactly.
Of thing.
Who says?
Explain it to me. And I think that's such a problem, isn't it, in life, that so often things are just sort of, well, it's the way that it's done. It's like, yeah. Oh, well, it's been that way for 50 years. It's like, this is the way the industry is. It's like, why? Who cares?
And that is what I get quoted at me. Today I go in and sort out companies, allegedly. I mean, not allegedly, I do that. But that's what I get titled these days. When I go to
stubborn ass?
Yeah, basically.
Who's this guy? Keeps arguing with me.
Well, people say, that's impossible. And my response to that is, noted, ignored. No such thing as impossible. Impossible is just a word.
Yeah. People are funny though, aren't they? People don't like change. I don't know what it is about, things get very set, and then you come in and you challenge those things, and it stresses people out. I think there's maybe the fear that it means they're doing something wrong. They should have thought of it,
So my approach is not to if I go into a business, I'm not going to go and butt heads with a team. That's not what I'm there for. What I'm there for is to say, okay, I understand what you're doing, but let's dare to dream about how we could get to there.
Do better.
How could we get to there? You're going to grow this business by 4%. And if I gave you every resource you need, every resource, how would you grow it by 40%? And people look at me and they go, oh, I say, look, all right, I'll make it easy for you. Forget the 40%. You see, they relax a bit. I say 400%. And then people laugh. And I say, great, keep laughing. What would you do? What would you change? Let's dare to dream. Imagine, took all the boundaries away. What would you do? And people say, well, we'd need to change that product. We go into this country. We sort out our logistics, which we know are rubbish, but we've never done it.
Yes, suddenly people start throwing out ideas.
And the ideas start coming.
Yeah.
And so once it's there, it becomes their ideas. I get a team together and we start doing this stuff. And on one wall, I call it the whinge wall. I say, write everything on there that you don't bloody like about this company. Just write it on that whinge wall there. And at first people don't. And then somebody starts. And then it starts to flow. And everything that pisses them off goes on that whinge wall. And on that wall over there, which are painted white, write all the ideas. Because those ideas are to fix all those whinges. And we start, and they own it. If I've got a team of 20 or 30 or 40 people.
You always do this with the walls, do you?
I do it. That's how I start.
Did you invent that? Or read it in a book,
No,
God knows.
I guess I invented it a long time ago. I've been doing it a long time. But the whinge wall is mine. Yeah, bang, whinge wall. And people start writing down their whinges and they'll put it out through the factory or whatever. I turned around a boat company and we had 7 factories, 1,300 people. It had made losses for 10 years. And we got that business back in profit in 14 months with the same people. Didn't go out and employ the all-stars. We just gave the team the opportunity to make the change. And then they own it. Then they want to do it because it's their ideas.
Why is that not happening anyway? Like, what is it about our corporate culture or whatever that means that that's not happening? You know, that conversation's not happening. Don't know.
I don't know. I mean, look, my first day, it's not true. It was about my 4th day in this boat company. I went down to one of the factories and stood in front of, I say the guys, because there's only about 2 ladies in the whole firm. I stood in front of the team and I introduced myself. I'd just been appointed as CEO and I introduced myself and the abuse was extraordinary. I mean, and I standing...
What? You've only just been appointed and they're attacking you?
They're attacking me. And when I said, what's the problem here? And they said, well, you are. I said, give us a chance. I've been here 4 days, guys. Give us a chance. Yeah, well, not you, but the leaders, they all told us what to do. And I had standing next to me, my manufacturing director was a 6'5" Scouser. And I said, Joe, stay close. We're going to get slapped before we get out of here. So stay close. And I actually thought I was going to get beaten up in the car park. And I ended up...
God, there was that much anger and frustration.
It was, because they'd gone through 13 rounds of redundancy.
Jesus.
And they were proud people.
Yeah.
And they were scared for their jobs. And they were scared for the business, you know, and they're proud of this business.
And they could see, actually, it is being mismanaged.
And it's being mismanaged, and it's been mismanaged. And so I opened up to them, and it was a very interesting experience because it was a unionized business. Now, I don't have an issue with unions. Unions there to represent the team, that's fine, but let's have a dialogue. We're all here for the same reason. Because
we all want to do well.
If the business does well, your business, your jobs and your union are safe. So you know, I don't have an issue with unions per se. So let's have the conversation. And in this particular situation, the guy doing all the abusing was the head of the union. And I said to him, look, and, you know, key mistake number 1, Kev, I said, look, I get you're angry and I understand. Why don't you come over to my office tomorrow and we'll sit down, we'll have a cup of tea and we'll have this conversation. And he said to me, I've never been to head office and I'm not about to start now. Head office was 75 yards away. Never been.
And also the mindset too. I'm not starting now. I mean, like, it's like, okay, well.
Okay, so we knew where we started. And
well, you probably could have said, okay, I'll come to your office.
Yeah, and that's what I did. I said, I'll come to the cafe. We're a cafeteria in the big factory. I said, I'll come to you. We'll sit and have a cup of tea and we'll start. The next meeting, we got to know each other over a couple of weeks. And the next meeting, I got everybody together. And the anger was about the bonus system and the pay and rewards, which it frequently is. And I said, well, what is it you expect? And they told me what they expected. And this was, again, at 5 o'clock, 4:30 in the afternoon.
In a business that's losing money.
Business losing money, but promises had been made and in the view of the employees had never been fulfilled. So I said, okay, just tell me. And we stayed. I said to Joe, again, my manufacturing director, and Colin, who was my finance director, I said, guys, what are you doing tonight? Because it's up in Peterborough, right? And I live near Southampton, so I'd moved up there. I'm away from home, so I got nothing to do in the evening except work. So I said to the 2 guys who would also, like me, living away from home, what are you doing tonight? Nothing. Right, let's get together. Let's get a couple of pizzas in, let's sit down. So we sat down and we worked out what we could do to address the concerns that the team had. When the team came back in at 8 o'clock in the morning, we'd already set up a screen and a projector. We'd got our presentation ready to roll, and we presented back to them what we were going to do about the issues that they were so unhappy about.
Could you do much?
Yeah, we could. Absolutely. We increased their salary. It's blowing my brains anyway financially. So it doesn't make a lot of difference.
We're all going to die or not.
Yeah, exactly. So we increased the salary and I changed the bonus system. But the bonus system required them to perform. It wasn't a bonus for turning up.
Is that what the bonuses were before? Kind of.
Let's say the targets were inappropriate previously.
Yeah.
What I said was, you've got to build a boat and you've got to build it right first time. So we're not paying you just for finishing a boat. It's got to be to quality. Because we had another line. The guys built the boat and got their bonus. Then we moved the boat onto another line where we had another team who fixed it. It's like we're not doing that.
That's so British.
So it was this kind of mentality, and we changed it. And what we did over time was exactly what I've spoken to you about.
And putting the salary up is an interesting move on the moment because you've got to do something straight away.
Yeah, and
almost to just rebuild faith.
And it was more than they asked for. They asked for a certain increase, and I can't remember the numbers now. But
just take the anger out.
We gave them substantially more than the increase they asked for, and there was shock in the room. There was shock. I said, right, there's the commitment. Now let's get on and fix it. And I repeat the point. In 14 months, we got our business back in profit. Because the same team of people. We're all working to the same plan.
Wow.
That's the difference.
Do you feel the pay gap with management, senior management now has been growing supposedly, so some of this anger you were facing is them thinking these people who are mismanaging the business are earning, 20 times what I am and it's not fair and stuff. I mean, what do you feel about that? In corporate culture, everyone kind of votes their salaries and up they go. Do you think?
I think some senior leadership salaries now are ridiculous. Too high. Far, far, far too high.
Do you think there should be more, how do you manage that? It should be more transparency with the team about it, or?
Well, I think there should be transparency, but, if you're going to, there's a couple of things. I'm an entrepreneur. So I invest my own funds into a business, and if the business does well, I will get a return on my funds. I'm risking my money. But as an employee, if you're a senior executive employee being paid millions a year, it's like, why? I generally just think, why? And I don't get this thing about, well, they get paid this much in America, and they get paid. It's off the scale. It's too much. And, we all see the water boards at the moment and the percentage of millions of pounds of bonus that these guys are getting when they're actually trashing the rivers in this country. It's
disgusting.
It's just wrong.
Yeah.
And that's my view on it. It's just wrong. You can earn a bonus by creating value. Create value. You should not be earning fractions of millions, hundreds and hundreds of thousands by basically doing your job and providing some growth.
What do you think about Elon then and his giant bonuses and things? Do you feel he's earned it?
No, I don't. I mean, look, he's a smart guy. I've worked with him.
Have you?
Yeah, I worked with him. He's smart. He's no smarter than you and me. What he's got is big kahunas. I mean, he believes his own stuff, and he's got an investment community who hang off his every word for some reason. Tesla.
Where did you work with him? With Tesla? Or?
He brought Tesla to Europe, and he called me to ask me if I would help him to build the team. And so I introduced him to some people, and I would end up. I never met him. I would speak with him on the telephone, and I'd introduce him to people. Look, he's a smart guy, but I repeat the point. He's very rude. Doesn't say please or thank you, and.
That's not how we like to do business.
That's not how I like to do business.
No, I like what you said. And I can see, there would have been a naivety with you originally about, I don't know what I'm doing, but let's just try and approach this logically. And then over time, I can see you sort of probably found there was a pattern to this. That, people are not thinking about the customer. People are not engaging the everyone in the problem. They're not getting everybody on board with it. They're not your wall idea is really interesting. It's like, okay, where's the bad? What are the ideas? We've got to get people to open up. People sit around those tables tight-lipped with a problem at the table, don't they? You end up spending all day talking about a logo or something. Do you know what I mean? They'll find something to fiddle about with, It's fascinating.
So the ideas wall, you've got the whinge wall and you've got the ideas wall. The ideas wall in the boat company was replicated throughout. We had 7 factories, and the guys took it and they put it throughout the factories. I didn't put it. They took it and they put it throughout the factories. And the ideas.
How did they even know they could do that? You just empowered them to do it.
Just empowered them. We showed them the tool. We showed them how we were using it at the highest strategic level in the business. And what I did was next to my office, I had a very swanky office. And next to my office was a very swanky meeting room for the chief executive, which I didn't need it. What was I going to use that for? So what we did was we turned that into a meeting room for everybody. And I invited the union to come and hold their meeting there. And the way I encouraged them, I said, look, instead of sitting in your drafty cafeteria, come sit here and we'll put on tea and sandwiches and we'll feed you. And I'm next door, literally next door. You want me, you can grab me and pull me into your meeting. And over time, the trust grew because around the wall of that meeting room, we put the plans. We showed everything that we were doing. And I always build a 1,000-day plan. Where will this business be in 1,000 days? What will it look like? Don't talk to me about years. Year is a long time. But 1,000 days, a subset of 1,000 days is a day. So let's measure things by the day. Let's measure it by the day. And let's get the heart rate up and we count down. So it says 1,000 days, and tomorrow it says 999, 997.
What? So it says 1,000 days we're going to be here, and then you count down the days.
Every day, everywhere in a factory.
And then you change where you're trying to get to, or no?
No. We just count down the days because people see the days ticking away, and it gets the urgency up. They realize that we've got to move quickly here. We've got to keep moving.
That's so interesting the way a year seems longer, isn't it? It's like when you break your life down into months, it's kind of like, oh my God, I've got to get on with this thing.
Yeah, I've got to get on with it. So the way that we changed, the business called Fairline, the way that we changed Fairline was to do that. We got everybody to share the same vision of success. And it comes back to your point. It's about inspiring people. It's about realizing that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary results if you give them the opportunity, delegate the authority, let them make the decisions. And the stuff that came out of the team was extraordinary. It was big stuff. I mean, we started building things in different ways. Our wiring looms, which up until then had been hand-built inside the boat, we would have a huge superstructure on which we would build this wiring loom, which was then put into the boat. It just transformed the business. And it was done by the team. They knew what needed doing, and they were right when they said to me on day 4, you're the problem because you, generic management, have come in and told us how to do it. We know how to do it. Give us a chance.
But it's sort of bottom-up management, isn't it? How the hell are you going to know how best to do a wiring loom? But Fred, who's been doing it for 10 years, is probably saying it's a stupid way to do it. I'll do it different, Exactly. And we ended up building sub-components. So certain units which previously had been built inside the boat, we would build offline and then put them into the boat. Quality improved dramatically. What happens when you get down to zero? You'd set another 1,000 days, do you?
Well, you never quite get to zero because at about day 800, you start building your next plan because the world does move on. And
I was about to say plans change, sort of thing.
You do.
And then you reset to 1,000, do you? Or
yeah, we relaunch it another 1,000 days.
Okay.
But all the projects that we're running within that, we try to run in 50-day periods. So I can't build a boat in 50 days, but I can build a hull or I can do
Why 50 days? Just another easy number.
Because it's an easy number and we have a little celebrate. Hey, we built the hull 50 days. We did it in 47. Fantastic. Bring in the pizzas. Let's have a can of beer. And everyone feels good.
Yeah.
And, every 50 days, you keep that little positive spurt of dopamine going and people are feeling good about themselves.
Yeah, it's so funny how we overcomplicate that, isn't it? People just want to feel like they've moved forward, It's like, okay, well, I've done something. Great. I've painted the fence.
We've made progress.
Yeah, we've moved forward, finally. I get a beer and a pizza. You don't need to be complicated about it. What's nicer than a slice of pizza and a beer,
The thing that the guys kept throwing at me, and I keep saying guys because...
Yeah, it's okay. It's a generic term, I think, these days.
But the thing that they kept throwing at me was we used to have family days. Because they were so proud of these boats. These boats are amazing. These are $10 million boats. And they used to have family days where they could bring in their wife and their kids and their mum and dad and their friends and they'd all come in. And I said, well, we'll have a family day again. But we've got to get to the point where we're proud of what we show them.
Great point.
And we did that. And it was about, 18 months in, something. And we had a family day. And we brought in all the families and we had a barbecue.
What fun.
Things for the kids. And, it's simple stuff. But the morale went up again. And I still, this is 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Is the company still going?
It got bought out.
Because there's barely any boat builders left. Were you building yachts or you're building...
No, they're motor yachts.
Motor yachts, okay.
It's a tough business. Too many builders, not enough customers is the reality of it.
Because they've built a lot now in Turkey and, the UK is almost out of that. We have a client who builds boats and yachts and stuff. Yeah, they were saying to me there's barely anyone left here, That's sad. Well, that was fascinating. Really, really fascinating. I mean, okay, so you did that. You went from company to company, putting walls up of tell me your problems. And then what happened? And then
I was involved in selling a couple of businesses, and I thought, it's time for me to do something else. And one of the companies I sold was a business I started, and I sold that.
What was that?
There's a company called Epics. It's back office to the fleet sector, automotive fleet sector. And it's quite a long time ago now, but we reckoned that the internet was going to change the world. And, we're all sitting here now. And, well, of course, what's clever? Well, 20 years ago, that wasn't something that I could convince many people of. And so I walked away from BMW and started as chief executive of a company called Cars Direct, who were an American online retail business. And they wanted to bring it to Europe. And I thought, yeah, this looks like fun. This is a chance to do something that's extraordinary. And I walked away from BMW and I took on this role. And after a few months, realized that the Cars Direct model, which was going gangbusters in America, wasn't going to translate very well to Europe. So I went back to the shareholders. I said, listen, I've got an idea. We could do this differently. And instead of trying to be a retail brand, because we've got this funny thing called the block exemption over here, which limits the way that motor retailers can operate, I've got this idea. We could become the back office that cleans up all of the manual stuff that goes on with the fleet sector and used cars and parts. And my investors in the States were big investors. I mean, the big names, big banks, Penske, Goldman Sachs, big names were investing in this business. And they said, well, it's very interesting, Kev, but we've decided to retrench to the USA. So thanks ever so much. Goodbye.
Ciao.
Yeah. So we effectively bought the business for £1. And the business at that point was 4 or 5 of us in an office, 4 or 5 laptops and an idea. And over the next 12 to 18 months, we built a business called Epics and OneLink product suite, which became the back office to the industry. And it worked very well. It became, a monopoly is a strong word, but it became the far predominant platform that's used by the sector. We sold that, and I thought, yeah, okay.
When did it all go wrong? Come on, tell me a business you've completely buggered up. You seem to be far too successful at all of this.
It's a lot of hard work. I'll tell you about one that I did get wrong. That was, sold Epics, decided that I'd do a portfolio job from now on. So became a chairman to some tech businesses and grew from there. But one of those tech businesses based in South Africa. So I got a couple of interests in South Africa. I like South Africa, beautiful country, amazing people. Dreadful government, but there we are. And I got involved in a business down there where, how did it go wrong? Well, it went wrong because I was busy doing something here. I was investing there. I wasn't chairman, but I was kind of advising this young entrepreneur. And over the next 2 to 3 years, the business grew. And then he was clear. He said, listen, I've got to go to the US because that's where my customers are. It was a marketing business, marketing research business, really. My big clients are in the US. I've got to go there. So he relocated to New York, and 12 months it was going fine. I'd speak to him every couple of weeks and he'd give me numbers and we'd talk about this, that and the other. And then I had the district attorney on the phone, New York district attorney.
And this is a business in South Africa.
It was registered in South Africa. Then we'd register it as a Delaware corp.
Right.
And it was operating in North America.
Okay.
So I get the district attorney on saying, Mr. Gaskell, we need to talk to you about some fraud. It's like out of the blue. What are you talking about? Well, your name on these documents, and these are being used to raise capital from investors. And they showed me the documents. I said, I've never seen those documents. Well, you're here as chairman of the company. I said, I'm chairman of the company. I said, I'm an investor in, and I advise. Cut long story short, the CEO had stolen, I still don't know to this day how much, 20, 40 million quid.
Wow.
There's numbers I hear. There's a book written about this. This is public. There's a book written about this.
Wow.
And cut long story short, he ended up in prison. Everyone lost their money, including me. Then we got...
It was all a nonsense.
He was just spending it on private things.
Right.
He was just raping the company for his personal benefit. But there were investors in the States who you really didn't want to mess with, and they'd seen it more than me. And so, you're going to ask me, what did you learn from it? What I learned from it is either be in a business or don't. Don't fiddle about on the edges. And I was fiddling. I was too busy building another company here. And that was not getting my share of attention. So the money disappeared. I mean, what we did was we got hold of the rump of the company and the team and put some of my own money into it. And we resurrected it, and we ended up selling it to MailChimp, actually. And everyone kind of got their money back, just about. But yeah, that one went wrong. Spectacularly.
You managed to save it.
I didn't really save it. I mean, the American investors didn't get their money back. The South Africans who I was involved with got their money back.
Right. The people you had a vested interest in.
The people who I felt responsible for, they got their money back. But yeah, it goes wrong very quickly. When it starts to go down the plug hole, it goes quickly.
Life changes fast.
Yeah. So that one was a big lesson for me, which was, as I've just said, either be involved or don't.
And if you've got a long-term plan, is there an overarching mission?
Me personally?
Yeah.
No, not really. I mean, look, I'm involved in 4 or 5 businesses now.
Aren't you dabbling, therefore, if you're involved in 4 and 5?
No, I'm pretty close to them, very close to them. I speak to them all each week, every week, speak to them. My overarching plan now is to sell them as the right opportunity arises and not take on more. So quietly run down my portfolio of businesses. I want to do other things. I want to write books. I want to speak at conferences. And I've got this thing I call Smarter Britain, and that's going to take my time.
What is Smarter Britain?
So Smarter Britain
tell me.
is a one-stop shop for new entrepreneurs. So I speak at schools. I go out and speak to school groups and university groups, and I talk about business. And in the audience, there are always some people who say, yeah, we hear all that corporate stuff, but actually we want to build our own business. And they don't necessarily want to be the next Bill Gates or the next Elon Musk, thankfully. They want to be something small or something local. But they say, but we don't know how to do it. We don't know how to start. And so this has come at me again and again and again. So I've created Smarter Britain, smarterbritain.co.uk, which is sitting there at the moment as a holding platform. But it will be a one-stop shop for any entrepreneur who wants to start their own business. And it will help them through the whole process, from the basics of registering a company right through to raising funds and the whole journey in between. And we will have mentors on the journey who will provide support to the young and growing entrepreneurs. We'll have access to finance in there. But a lot of it starts in the very early phases. And when I've said to people, look, some people don't do well at school. And it doesn't mean that they're stupid. It means they don't do well at school. And I said to them, when they say, well, we're not going to get a job, I said, well, become your own boss. Be the best boss you possibly can be. And they say, well, how do I do that? And the example I use is, look, I'll give you enough money to buy a bucket, a wash leather, and a ladder. Go clean windows. Go clean windows. And find yourself a window round, and then find another one. And then get somebody to work with you and build a business that way. This doesn't have to be capital intensive, and it doesn't have to be technology.
You don't have to be famous either.
You don't have to be famous. And there's huge demand out there for, tradespeople. Can you get a good plumber? Can you get somebody to come in?
Oh, it's a real problem because everybody wants to be a social media star or something. I don't know.
Exactly. So Smarter Britain, we're saying, is a one-stop shop for the next. We are looking to inspire and support the next generation of entrepreneurs.
You should meet Paddy we had on the podcast, Aldridge Foundation. Actually, that'd be quite interesting for you. But I mean, it's the guy who did Capita, I think, or something. But anyway, he sort of came from nothing and just sort of about inspiring kids on that level, and they provide a load of training. Yeah, it's a side conversation, but I should definitely introduce you, sort of teaching people to be entrepreneurs. Again, on a simpler level, okay, be a photographer. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it.
Whatever it is, and follow your passion.
The skill thing has got to sort itself out too. Yeah, I mean, follow your passion. Wait, that's discongruent with be a window cleaner.
Follow your passion to work for yourself.
Okay.
I want to have my own business. And I've met students in schools who say, I want a nail bar. I want this, I want that. And it's not a matter of being dismissive of that as a limited ambition. It's about saying, great, okay, how can we help you to achieve that?
What do you think about the fact that Britain is just, got so many small businesses and so few larger businesses, I mean, is that okay? It doesn't matter.
It's fine.
Yeah, okay.
80% of people work in small businesses in this country.
Yeah.
And that's fine because that gives us diversity, it gives us sustainability. But, the government have got to understand what that means. And the government have got to create more easy access to support and capital for those businesses.
I guess it's easier for them to interface with big business, and big business is likely to have, some ability to open the door and, we're head of X, so we can go and speak. It's much harder for small business to get representation. Immediately you say it, it's like, well, you're going to have one person represent 1,000 people who all think slightly differently about it.
Yeah. In South Africa, one of the, I'm not involved in this business. I was in a small way in the early days of giving them advice to get going. There's an organization called the Angels, and these were 3 ladies, and their ambition was to help, what do they call them? They have a name for it. Subsistence entrepreneurs, people who really have got nothing. These are people in townships. Right. Help them to create a business. Yeah. And this might be people growing vegetables in their back garden. It might be people knitting clothes. It might be the simplest of simple businesses. And I gave them some advice in the early days, and I've stayed close to it. And a good colleague of mine is heavily involved in it. They have helped create over 15,000 businesses in the last 8 years. I mean, it's extraordinary. They transform the local economy. Some of these businesses now employ hundreds of people. And that comes from just creating a friendly, a supportive, an encouraging network and environment for these subsistence entrepreneurs to step into. And we might be providing them with a monthly phone rental cost. We might be providing them with basic tools.
It's like micro-lending in India.
Micro-lending. It's where it starts. But the effect is enormous. And I want to do that in the UK. And I want to do it in a way that helps young people start business, which, ultimately they can become big businesses. And that's fine. But the objective is to get people off the streets. Yeah,
the amount of investment is tiny, isn't it? I mean, I saw one of the leaders of this in India, and I mean, we did chat briefly as well after the thing. But yeah, he's a leader in sort of micro lending, and he was also saying, he lends these tiny amounts of money. Really, you're talking £50 or something, which is a sum of money that a poor person in India can't possibly get, but can buy that asset so they can start this business. And he says, no one ever doesn't pay me back. He was so interesting about, you've got millions of tiny debts. And he says the honorability amongst these people is extremely high. There are, if it goes wrong, it goes wrong, and it's a tiny debt, so you can write it off. But almost everybody pays back, and I thought that was fascinating. I mean, I also think, you just apply the same here, and probably the number's £1,000 or something.
Sure.
It's to some people not a lot, to some people a lot. But, it's that amount of money you need to buy the camera, to do the thing, to get your equipment and get going, isn't it? And it changes everything. And I loved what you said, because I get stuck on the do what you love. And everyone's like, do what you love. And then I'm like, well, someone's going to have to go down the sewer. Are they like loving it? I don't know. Maybe they do love their job, but I don't like this sort of, I think it's very social media too. It all seems to be people who are celebrities, or people working in some really, just sort of one of those jobs. It's like, I just love my job, and everyone who does something they don't love. I like to say passionate about independence. It's almost like be passionate about being an entrepreneur. Sure. Who cares if it's window cleaning? We get that. I don't know if you agree, but I just feel we get that narrative wrong. There's something about it that bothers me, because it's just sort of suggesting to everybody that you all need to be a famous football player or something. It's like, that's very, very difficult.
I've got a mate who runs a scrapyard. You want to talk to somebody who's passionate, go and talk to Brian. He will tell you everything about a scrapyard and everything about the renewable work he does, and how his biggest challenge at the moment is these, what do you call them, electric puffers that
the vapes
cause him all kinds of trouble because they all have a little battery in. And one of his big challenges at the minute is how to recycle some of this stuff and get these little batteries out. But he's so passionate about it. And he's built that business up from nothing. And it's great. And you listen to him and he's fascinating. So there's passion in it. That's what I say about follow your passion. And it doesn't have to be a glamorous job. He's dealing with scrap metal and scrap plastics and scrap.
He doesn't like waste.
He doesn't like waste, but he's passionate about recycling this stuff, and it's passion.
For you, is there any great advice you've received?
Yeah, somebody once said to me, a very eminent businessman once said to me, when I said I wanted to step out and start building small businesses, he said, "Kev, be aware. It takes as much effort to build a small business as it does to build a big business." So, and that sticks in my head because it's true. These days I'm involved in small businesses, and I'm an entrepreneur, but I don't have an entourage. I do my own stuff. I write my own letters. I write my own emails. I book my own flights.
You don't have an assistant even?
No,
nothing.
Well, I have a part-time assistant, but fundamentally nothing like when I was in a corporate role where I had 2 full-time PAs who were basically presenting me, here's what you're doing for the next hour, here's what you're doing for the next hour. I don't have any of that stuff. And sometimes I miss it. When you're sitting up at 10 o'clock at night trying to get yourself a flight inside Africa from A to B, yeah, that's a nuisance. But most of the time, I just enjoy I enjoy doing what I do and being a free agent to do it.
Aren't you suggesting, though, people should think big?
Some people want to think big and some don't. I think it was just a lesson for me stepping out of a big corporation into really very small companies when this fella said, "Be aware, Kev, it's just as much work." And I've thought about it. Did I give the impression that I didn't think it was as much work? I don't know, but that was a piece of advice that stuck with me. The other piece of advice that stuck with me is personal guarantor, a fool with a fountain pen. Yeah. And I thought, yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah. Because even if you have nothing?
And do you really want somebody coming after you?
Well, as an accountant, it's vanilla advice, but we would say to our client, never sign a personal guarantee. But sometimes they have to, Sometimes it's just like they get the money, that's the requirement. And you're like, well, it's a shit idea, but if you have to do it, you have to do it, I
mean, look, in extremis, I guess, but this guy, a guy called Ian Blenkinsop, and he said to me, "Kev, definition of an idiot, personal guarantor, fool with a fountain pen."
So true.
Don't do it.
Yeah, it's good advice. Find another way, Very good. So let's finish with what do you think is really bullshit? I guess just in business generally. Is there anything that really struck you as that?
I think the thing that frustrates me most of all, we've got a new government now, and I'm not really a political person. I'm kind of in the middle.
Yeah, me too.
I believe we should have a good social network. I believe we need to have good schools and good hospitals and support people when they're in difficulty. And I get frustrated by the flip-flop left to right, right to left. And I lived in Switzerland for 8 years. And, you've got proportional representation. Everything is very stable, very solid, and progressive. They make progress. So I find that very frustrating.
I could not agree with you more. I had this conversation for like an hour earlier with a client when I was trying to say, the moment anyone's saying that on the left, and then at the moment I've got friends who are really left saying Labour's not left enough, and then all the people on the right say, right, aren't we? And I'm like, we should all be in the middle. So shouldn't we be saying, okay, so some people are over there and some people are over there, so what's in the middle? And it's what's that phrase? Compromise is when everyone's annoyed or whatever, everyone's disappointed. But I find the lack of centralism, if you're going to start a conversation saying you're on one side or the other, you're kind of saying, I hate rich people, I hate poor people. It's like, great, this is going to go well as a conversation,
Sure. So I find that frustrating. I do find central government frustrating. It's incredibly difficult to find access to the right people to get.
Isn't all government central government?
Okay, so government per se, I find frustrating.
Right.
I'm building Smarter Britain. I've been trying for 2 years to speak to somebody to say, is there help I can get here? Is there support I can get? And whether it's financial or otherwise, is this, I'm bouncing off. I can't get anywhere. And people, you need to speak to. Well, I'll speak to them then. No, it's not me. It's him over there. You have to speak to. No, it's not me. It's her over there.
And I find that surprising as someone with a career like yours that you don't have a few connections. Someone would be surprised to say, the CEO of BMW doesn't have a.
Well, I have a lot of connections, but they change. I mean, they change. They're not in power. They're not here. They're not there. They're not anywhere. And so I find that frustrating. I find you just mentioned tax. I find the debate or the view that, just tax the rich. I think that's just so shallow. You got 1% of people in this country paying 28 or 30% of all tax. And those people are the most mobile people there is. And if you shove tax rates up to 50, 60, 70%, some of them will skip the country.
We know some of them are considering it because you're getting to a point, if they do crazy things with inheritance tax and capital gains, that we'll have to say to some clients, you might as well bugger off.
Yeah, you might as well go somewhere else. And so the country's net tax take will go down. So I find that very frustrating, that it's that the argument is so superficial. And we're all in this together, or we should all be in this together. And we know, I mean, I get surprised that people say, hey, look, the NHS waiting list is this big. When my wife's a pharmacist, when the lockdown happened and you couldn't get into hospitals and this, that, and the other, in our house, my son's a doctor. In our house, we said, well, what's going to happen? Well, the wait list is going to go through the roof. And it's as if it's a surprise. They said, well, why is that a surprise? You closed down hospitals for 3 years to sort out the pandemic, and suddenly the waiting list is long. And I find it acutely frustrating that instead, if it were a business, if that kind of challenge were presented to me as a businessman, I would sit down and work out how to deal with it. But all I seem to hear is they're blaming them and they're blaming them. Or Labour are blaming Conservatives, left this. It's, guys, the problem is the problem. Let's stop pinging at each other and let's sit down and work out how we're going to do it. The vaccine came, the lady who I can't think of her name, who came out of PE, private equity, and she just nailed it because she focused on the problem. And nobody could believe how quickly the job was done. And
we were the first in the world because you're basically making the point, which I think is so fair, is put some business people in charge.
Exactly.
Run it like a business.
Run it like a business. What government project has ever run on time and on budget? Yeah. Any? Tell me any.
They're all career politicians.
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely need to pay them more, and I don't even know why that's not a topic. I guess they're scared to bring it up. They'll upset. It's like, pay it more and start getting some people who are actually business people who are prepared, and be a bit more forgiving. We need to be a little bit more forgiving for mistakes, probably, if you put a business people in charge. I don't know.
I mean, you just look at HS2. I mean, what a fuck up from start to finish. Who needs 20 minutes off a train between London and Manchester?
I love the comedian who made that joke. He says, if you want to get to Birmingham 20 minutes quicker, catch the train before.
Yeah, and it's true. And that's true. I don't care. It takes another 20 minutes.
We have a little country. It doesn't matter that much.
But what I want is good Wi-Fi while I'm sitting on the train traveling.
Yes.
That's what I actually want. Because I don't care if I'm on the train another 20 minutes. I'll have another cup of coffee, but I want to be able to work. And so the fact that we as a country can commit all, billions and billions and billions and billions and rip up parts of the country and compulsorily purchase and put people out of their homes and then 5 years later, what do? We stop it.
Yeah,
and it's mad. It's just, that drives me nuts. Drives me nuts.
Either it's worth doing or it's not.
And was there not a better way? Was there not a better way to take the existing tracks that we have and improve them?
Well, they also, when you listen to people, up north, however you want to put it, in the Midlands, they all said what we need is better connections between our towns.
Sure.
We're not all, and it's true. Like, how much does a Londoner go up to Birmingham or Manchester. You know, there's lots of ways of getting there. It's not a long journey. You know, even in a car or a train, it's not a big problem.
It's not.
When I want to go, I go. I can come back later.
Yep.
You know, we're not dealing with issues here. And what they but however, when you're up there and you're suddenly like, oh, I need to go west or east or whatever, it's like, oh, well, you got to go to there and then change and go to there, and you're like, oh, for Christ's sake, you know, we haven't got a quick way to get there. You know,
Try getting from Chester to Hull by train. Just try it.
yeah, that's probably when I'm going to Hull tomorrow. I mean, that's, you know, it's just not linked well, is it? And then the regional, you know, all the mayors said, listen, what we need is, you know, better transport in and out, you know, what London has, you know what I mean? Those sorts of things. And I don't know. I've agreed. I agree with everything you say. I couldn't agree more with all the just things you said about running a business, like the anger towards the rich, as if that's like, you know, most of these people are, well, they're mobile, as you say, but, you know, most of these people love this country, have created jobs, they've earned money, they're paying a shitload of tax, by the way. They're not people are like, no, they've got it all in a trust offshore. It's like, no, they haven't. Not if they live in this country. It's not possible. It hasn't been. Oh, but it was. I saw the Panama Papers and the Cameron's family. Yeah, and that happened like 80 years ago. And yeah, sure, there's some people with some assets offshore from back in the day and whatever. But, you know, for a long time, 20, 30 years, you know, control foreign, you know, if you want to look it up, CFCs, control foreign companies, movement of assets abroad, just Google movement of assets abroad legislation, read the government's page on that. You will suddenly realize, oh, I can't move anything abroad. And if I do move abroad and it makes it, if I do stick it offshore in the Caribbean and it makes some money, everything that comes back is taxed at a heavy rate. Yeah, that's how it works, because you can't do it. So we've got to be a lot kinder to those people. Our problem always when you have this sort of conversation is, I don't think you and me see any way that this is changing. You know, if anything, we seem to double down
because it's politics. You know, the VAT on private schools. Listen, I went to a comprehensive school, but
boo.
Yeah, but putting VAT on private schools, one of the few things that we are world leaders in.
Oh, it's bonkers. And you know what? We do the maths on it. No one's interested because only 6% of people go to private schools.
Yeah,
but they're going to put 20% on the school. They're going to start being able to recover some of their costs. So they're not really going to get 20%. I don't know what they're going to get, 10%. And then the stats are somewhere between 20 and 40% will leave. And they're going to drop out of private schools. So that's putting more pressure back on the state. And then there's another stat about how many schools will collapse. You know, institutions, some of them have been around for ages, you know. Sure. And they're going to collapse. So then there's less in the sector. And as you say, it's like a golden jewel in the country.
Sure.
It does not make any sense.
Strategically, it makes no sense at all. It is the politics of envy. And this is from a comprehensive kid, right? It's politics of envy. And I just don't get it. Because, listen, I sent my kids to private school because I went through the comprehensive system and it was rank. It was dreadful. I fought my way through tooth and nail to get through that system. So I put my kids through day school, for which I paid. But I'm still paying for the other schools, aren't I?
Yes.
Nobody gives me a rebate on my tax.
No one even thinks about it.
No, because I choose to pay for private schools because I choose to. Just like I choose to buy the car I choose to, or I go on holiday. Nobody gives me a rebate. I still pay the same tax, so I'm paying for other school places, which is fine. I'm not arguing about that. But what I'm arguing about is don't cripple something that's doing really well just for the politics of envy. I think it's just short-sighted nonsense.
Yeah, and people actually, I don't think they think it through. We had a very amazing lady, Maureen Baig, on this podcast. He's a real sort of voice in this sort of industry and worked in state schools and, you know, got a lot of passion and, you know, I guess almost anger about it, you know, and talking to her about it. Yeah, I think it's sort of like, you know, get rid of private schools. It's politics. It's not fair, you know, and it's sort of like, yeah, exactly the point you made. But hang on, okay, rich people who are paying way more tax than other people. You know, you almost want to see the simple sums. You know, this person's putting £500,000, you know, they earn £1 million a year, let's say. It's a lot of money. It's people who earn it. They're putting £500,000 into the system a year is going in. Yeah. And then they're privately educating their kids. So they're doing private healthcare. They're barely putting any strain on the system. They're putting £500,000. Why are they the problem? Interestingly, when you ask her, what's it all about? The argument they make is that if there was only a state system, rich people would demand a better education system. So therefore the education system would be better. And I just think that's just like, have you ever seen that happen in anything else? Is Thames Water better because we all use Thames? I don't know. We could think of an example that's like, it's going to make no difference. Rich people aren't going to be able to change the education system. They're just going to bugger off.
Well, if there's only 6% going to private schools, shouldn't the other 94% already be demanding an improvement in state education?
Exactly. What did I think it falls back to this? Well, the rich people, they've got all these connections and they'll go see the prime minister or something. It's like, what freaking world did they think they lived in? I went to a very posh school and then I remember someone saying to me, well, you can just get a meeting with David Cameron. I was like, what? I mean, what are you talking about? Like, it doesn't even make any sense. How, Well, I agree. And I'm really sorry if anyone, is listening or just feels like, very angry about, the situation. I mean, a lot of this is driven from anger, and that is envy, isn't it?
It is envy.
And I think, we need to calm down a little bit. Well, that was very good. So thank you, man. That was brilliant. So we'll just do a few fun questions if you want.
Sure.
So we're just going to get to know you just a little bit better. We're going to ask you some short questions. You should know the answers. Dee's cueing the music. So what was your first job?
Picking potatoes.
Was it? Okay,
Yeah.
Excellent.
I grew up in the countryside and we used to go out and earn some money picking potatoes.
Very nice. And what was your worst job?
Picking potatoes. It was dreadful.
I picked coriander for over my summer holidays once. One of our clients trying to earn some money. That was awful. My hands swelled up. Favorite subject at school?
Maths.
Okay. Yeah. I guess for engineering and stuff, it needs to be.
Yeah.
What's your special skill?
I don't know if I have a special skill. I have a special mindset. I'm positive. Just try and be positive and be determined. We can do that. I don't know how, but we can do that. And I get frustrated with people who give up. You said in the beginning, in my hobbies, I walked to North Pole, South Pole, I've climbed the world's biggest mountains, I've rode the ocean, blah, 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 blah. And people say, I'd love to do that. I said, well, bloody do it then. If this fat old man can do it, you can do it. Get off your backside and go do it.
He's not fat, by the way. Not even slightly. Have you climbed every mountain, have you?
I haven't climbed
No,
every
sorry,
mountain.
of the big ones like Everest. You haven't done K2. No, that's impossible.
K2's a killer. You don't want to go K2.
Yeah. No one's done it. Or, it's so hard to do.
Very few.
Yeah.
So I've been up a lot of mountains. I've not been to the top of Everest, no.
Okay. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Civil engineer.
Oh, yeah, you said.
I always knew I wanted to be a civil engineer.
And what did your parents want you to be?
Whatever I wanted to be. I told the doctor at my preschool medical, I can remember it, I can still see him. He said to me, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, a man who builds bridges and roads. I was 4 years old. And I was I don't know why I knew, but I knew. And he said to me, do you know what they're called? And I said, yeah, navvies. He said, no, son, they're called civil engineers. I could still see that. I can still remember that. He said, no, son, they're called civil engineers.
What's a navvy?
The work of the labourers.
Okay.
Old-fashioned word for labourers.
Okay.
People who had a spade.
It's nice. Maybe it was the Lego or something. I don't know. What have you got a go-to karaoke song?
No, I play in a band.
Do you really?
Yeah, I play in a band.
What do you play?
I play guitar. And
way.
we've been playing together for 25 years or more. It's kind of the same band, a bit like Trigger's Brush is the same brush, but it's mostly the same band.
What's the name of the band?
The HODS stands
HODS.
for Heads of Department. And we were all together at BMW. And it was me I was the last one in. So there was Steve, who was after sales director, Graham's legal director, Jill's marketing manager, then Nigel, who was marketing, and Ricky Livid, who was Richard, who was drummer. And they played together before I joined the company. And we played, there was a Christmas party, a lot of people. So we had 1,000 people in the room. And we said, right, we're going to get up and play 2 or 3 numbers, which we did. And people came up to us and said, you were miming that, weren't you? And the guys are very good. I'm far and away the weakest in the band, right? The guys are very good. And we said, no, we were playing that. You weren't. You were miming that. We said, no, we were playing that. And we play all over. We've played all over. We've done a world tour of Switzerland. When I was there, we played at Hilton on Park Lane. We played at big places. The guys are very good. So I don't have a karaoke song.
But it's your own music, or you do covers?
No, it's covers. We're a party band.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything you want to dance to, we'll play it. 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, noughties, 10s, 20s, we play it.
Love it. That's a great answer. Office dogs, business or bullshit?
I don't mind dogs for an hour. Yeah, I'd love a dog. I haven't got a dog. I'd love a dog, but I'm away so much I don't have a dog. But I like dogs.
Yeah.
And I liked your dog as I came in. Lovely.
He's very chilled.
He sat there very quietly and just looked at me and thought, oh,
he just knows he's stuck here for 2 hours and it's a podcast. So it's like, oh, Dad's doing some boring blah, blah, blah. Have you ever been fired?
Yes. Yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
Where were you fired?
I was fired from Fairline.
Oh, wow.
Having done the turnaround, the business got sold and it's bought by a private equity fund.
Oh, of course it was.
And they came in and then I took them into we call it the War Room, Weekly Action Review War Room, which is where we had all the charts on the walls.
I love that, Weekly Action Review.
Yeah, the War Room. So that's where we helped where the unions would meet, we would meet. And I took them in and I showed them the plan and I showed them, 1,000 days. Here's where we're up to. And look, it's great. Everything's going well. And a particular gentleman who is very well known in this country said to me, I want this by then. And I said, well, we can't do that. I said, I'm a positive guy, but you can't do that because. And he said, because what? I said, well, to get a whole new generation of boats is an investment of £100 million. We don't have £100 million. And you're not going to put £100 million. And he said, you're not listening to me. And I said, I'm telling you that I've turned this business around and we're in really good shape and I can do it by then. I just can't do it by 50% of then. And he just looked at me and he walked away and he sent his man in the following day, gave me a letter, fired for gross misconduct.
What?
And I said, sorry, what was a gross misconduct? And he said, you were countermanding the orders of the board. And I said, I don't fucking know who my board is. You've only been here for 4 days. I don't know who my board is yet. And that was that. So we had a little legal battle. And
I bet they didn't win that as gross misconduct.
no, they didn't.
No,
they didn't win anything.
They had to pay you off. I mean, that you cannot argue that as gross misconduct.
They didn't win anything. I won everything.
Yeah.
There we are.
There's another story of private equity, I guess.
Well, it was just so silly because they started to do what they suggested I should do, and they basically messed
the business up.
Yeah,
I bet they were very sad to see the unions and stuff. They're suddenly, private equity couldn't be a bigger switch, I guess in retrospect, you wouldn't have sold to private equity, maybe.
I still get notes from people in that factory now saying, Kev, come back, please come back. And that's 6 or 8 years ago. So
it's alive as a business.
It's alive as a business. Yeah.
Wow. I'm really, big up everyone there. So, sorry it's changed.
Yeah, and great for them, and I'm delighted it's still alive as a business.
Yeah.
It was a passion project. I was there for 3 years as CEO, and it absolutely took my heart and soul for 3 years.
I think I might know the answer to this thing. It says there's a book on the table. What's your vice?
Other than a whiskey at night.
Oh, nice.
My vice is I'm an adrenaline junkie, so I enjoy climbing and walking to crazy places, and then rowing an ocean. And next year we'll row another ocean, it's just great because it puts me in a different place. I have to move my mindset to a completely different place. You can't think about work while you're trying to survive rowing an ocean. It's all about where you are and the team you're with. And so I guess I'm an adrenaline junkie. And I'm very, very fortunate in that for the last, how old is he now? 34. For the last 16 years, I've been doing it with my son. So he and I go on the same expedition. He calls me Kev. I call him Matt. That happens to be our name. And sometimes people who don't know us, particularly if it's a bought-in expedition, we buy in, they don't know we're father and son because we don't operate like father and son. You can't. I can't be looking out for him. He looks out for me more than I look out for him. But yeah, I do it with him, and that's an absolute privilege. And he'll be in the Pacific boat next year, and that's a privilege.
This rowing the ocean bit, I'm just trying to, what is it, 5-6 weeks, 2 hours on, 2 hours off. Yeah. that is just mental torture, isn't it?
Pain, and more pain, and then you die.
But you're doing it. Why? I get sort of exercising for a few hours and getting a release from it, but to do it on that level, what is going on in your head?
It's a challenge. Look, we set the world record for the Atlantic, fastest crossing, and we'd never rowed before, but we approached it as if it were a business project. how are we going to make this work? How are we going to achieve this result? And we worked so hard for the best part of 3 years before we hit the water.
Were you one of the early people to do it? Because it's a thing now. You sign up to.
It is a thing. Yeah, I don't think we're one of the very early people. We only did it 3 years ago.
Okay.
So we're not one of the very early people. But now the Pacific is the next frontier.
I mean, Jesus Christ, rowing the Pacific, that's like twice the size of the Atlantic.
No. We're only going halfway. We're cheating.
Oh, you're going to Hawaii or
We're
something?
going to Hawaii. It's the same as
Nice place to end too.
Apparently, yeah. Never been. But it's the same from California to Hawaii is the same as the Atlantic, same distance, 3,000 miles. But it's very challenging because the current, as you go west out of California, there's a north to south current that drags you down. And if you for the first 300 miles, you are battling through that current. Otherwise, you end up in
Right. So
Mexico.
part of the thing that takes over is you're sitting having a row, but you are rowing for your lives, really. I mean, you could do people die on it sometimes, do they?
Yeah, somebody died last year. I mean, look, our first night in the Atlantic, we covered 80 miles in the day, and there was a storm to the north of us. And we have a weather router on shore who we speak to who says, right, go this way, boys, go that way, go the other way. I mean, there's no support in the sea around us, but we can speak to him. And he says, right, take this heading, do that, do the other. And he said, don't worry, the storm is to the north. The fleet have come out of Spain, and they're going southwest, looking for the trade winds. You boys go west, and you'll get a big push by the storm. It could be a big kick up the backside. So that's what we did. We went due west.
What, wind-wise?
Wind-wise, yeah. Wind and currents, and it'll push you on. And so we went due west. 3 or 4 boats went due west. Same advice. Well, nobody had told the storm not to come south because he reckoned it wouldn't come south, but it came south. And so we got hit as it went dark, and the seas got bigger and bigger. And the freeboard on these boats is only 12. We're only 12 inches above the water.
The sea's going like, 30 foot or...
Yeah, huge. Absolutely huge. The swell can be...
It's terrifying.
The swell can be 30, 40 foot. And then if you get breaking waves...
And what do you have to do? You have to row into it and go out a bit, or...
Yeah, you need to keep basically head on into the waves, otherwise it'll roll you. And so that night we got hammered, and it's very hard to describe what it's like to be in a force 5 in pitch black.
I was about to say, how do you know where the waves are in the middle of the night?
You don't see them coming. So you turn your navigation lights off because that just blinds you. You lose any perspective. And I'd just come off shift. I'd just done my 2 hours and went back into the cabin, and I was just taking off my safety gear because we're tied into these boats, right? Because if you go over the side, you're gone. So I'd taken off my safety harness in the little tiny cabin, which is the size of a car boot. I just got in there, and so I had my 2-hour break. And then there was an enormous, I mean, the noise is just phenomenal. There was an enormous crash, and the boat lurched over kind of through 90 degrees. And I thought we were going to roll, and then it came back. And one of the guys outside the door, I heard him shout, shit, my oars snapped. So the water had snapped the carbon fibre oar, just snapped it. And then the next wave came 5 seconds later.
You have a spare oar?
Yeah. The next wave came 5 seconds later, and Matt, my son, was rowing in the next position back, and he shouted, shit, it snapped mine as well. So we had no oars on one side of the boat. And then you start to turn because you throw something in the water, it'll go long ways on to the waves. That's what happens. And then we'll roll. And we're struggling because we start rolling and we won't get out of it. So we had 2 spare oars, and we pull those out very quickly and try and get back in control of the boat. And we fought through the night. We had 6, 7, 8 hours of fighting for our lives. And I honestly sat on that boat thinking, are we going to get out of this? Is this, because I'm a civil engineer, I'm listening to the boat, I'm waiting for it to start squeaking. Is it going to break up? Is it going to break with this enormous assault of hundreds of tons of water hitting it? But it didn't. The boat hung together, and we got through it. And,
Wow. And you rang up that weather guy next year, and he said, listen here, mate.
Yeah. You know that advice you gave us yesterday?
I'm going to fucking come around with your house.
You know that advice you gave us yesterday? He said, yeah. He said, it was a bit rough, wasn't it? I said, yeah, it was a bloody bit rough.
You got anyone else who works there?
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. And you've written a book about it. So what's it called?
The book's called Catching Giants. And it's...
Hold it up nice and clear for the camera. So that one.
That one. The book is called Catching Giants. And it's the story of how did 5 guys who'd never rowed before go out and break the world record. And that's on one side of the page, basically. And the other side of the page is there are 80 lessons in there that I've taken out of the project to use into business. So it's how to run a better business. So you get the adventure story and you get all the pictures of us looking a bit rough and a bit bedraggled and half dead. You see the guys here.
Is this at the end?
Well, that's halfway across when we're looking that rough.
Wow. Because they say the pictures at the end and they have picture at the start.
Yeah,
and the comparisons are crazy.
Yeah, they're in here. The pictures of us.
Good weight loss regime.
I lost 13. There you go. I lost 13 kilograms in 35 days. So lose 2 stone in 35 days.
Wow.
So, but yeah, the book is. But the point of the book, I didn't want to just write a diary of we went out, we rode, and it was pretty darn tough. So what? What are the lessons? What would you do? And we're taking those lessons now and put them into our Pacific boat, and we're going to go out and do that.
Jesus, get a different weatherman though. I just find you're just exposed out there. You're cold, are you, all the time?
Yeah, cold.
You're cold. You warm up when you row.
The Pacific's a lot colder.
Right.
You warm up when you row, but you get cold and you're hungry all the time. You're burning 8,000 calories a day.
When you get your little 2-hour break, you just pass out?
No, you've got things to do. You've got to maintain the boat. Check in on the phone.
So it's not a break. It's just a break from rowing.
Well, what tends to happen is, as an average, and we know because we got so precise, you get about 1 hour 14 minutes of sleep. That if you want to sleep, you get about 1 hour 10, and that's it. And then somebody's banging on the cabin door. You're back on shift, and you go out and you row for another 2 hours.
Jesus
and you do that all day, every day. And
so you're getting how much sleep? You're getting, can't do it, 6 hours, every 2 hours. So it's 12 hours. So you're getting 6 hours. So you're getting almost 12 hours sleep. No. Can't be. No. 2 hours on, 2 hours off. And in that 2 hour, you're getting an hour's sleep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you get 6 hours sleep. Is that right?
I think you might get 12. Anyway, we need a calculator. You're a mathematician. I'm an accountant. We should have this smashed, but I can't do it.
We do 2 hours, so that's 12 row shifts a day.
Yeah.
24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can get up to 12 hours sleep. But of course, you don't sleep during the day.
But you're exhausted, and also you're not getting the sleep. It takes longer to get into the sleep cycle. So
you're just getting a full cycle.
You're just getting a first little bit of a cycle, and then you're awake again.
A normal human cycle is about 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And you never get 90 minutes.
Yeah. Wow.
And you go nuts. You start hallucinating.
Yeah.
I knew exactly where I was at one point because I could see Tesco. And I'm telling people, there's Tesco. And they're saying, yeah, Kev, there's Tesco. That's right.
Keep rowing, Kev.
Keep rowing.
Music? Do you have like a little stereo?
Yeah, we had music, of course.
Oh, you've got to have music.
Got to have music.
That would keep you going. I mean, that would keep me going. Wow, it's been fascinating. So we're on to the end. Grab a paddle. We're just going to play a little game now. Business or bullshit. I'm just going to name some stuff. You've got to tell me whether you think it's business or bullshit.
So is that the answer, that side?
Yeah, exactly. Show it to the camera and then say it nice and clear. And then we might have a little bit of a debate. I haven't actually organised these cards, so we'll see how they go. The rules clear? Everything clear?
Yeah.
Dee's going to key some music, and I'm going to pick a card, and we're off. We're starting with a punchy one. TikTok.
Bullshit.
You involved at all? Your kids using it?
I have a presence. I have somebody who works with me on social media, and she is pushing me out. Starting now onto TikTok, but yeah, I don't know. Does it really do anything for my business? I don't think so.
I think it might be part of the problems we're all associating with this sort of anger and these sorts of misinformation and just sort of driving conversations without any sort of detail and nuance. Oh, this is a good one given your life. Corporate gifting. Where are you on
corporate gifting? Yeah, I'd say that's business within sensible bounds.
Do you think it's important in business then?
I think I use it as a relationship builder. It's I send people a copy of the book. I don't send them £10,000. It's a way of staying in touch with people.
Yeah, it's really nice when someone sends you something, an object. They just send you a little something. You're like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Office spaces in the metaverse. You know what that means? The metaverse?
Bullshit.
Yeah. Have you ever seen one? Know of one?
No. And I know people are taking rights on things in the metaverse, and I own this. Whatever. Prove to me it makes any money. Prove
Yeah.
to me it adds value, because I don't get it.
Yeah, there's a few different ones, and you can go and buy up this building basically in a fake land. You can buy up the real space, you
Yeah.
know, and I get you get a little bit of feeling of like, oh, I don't want someone else to buy what we own. Hang on, we own it, so they can do what they want in fake land.
Listen, it's the same as buying stars and buying a square meter on the moon. Good luck to you. And if it makes you feel good, fantastic.
Yeah.
Will it do anything for your life? No.
Yeah, fun present maybe.
Yeah.
B Corp. Do you know what a B Corp is?
No.
Oh, you'll see them everywhere now. I've said it's a little B symbol. It's on loads of products. It's an American system of sort of, I guess they would say, good governance in terms of, you know, you pay people right. So, you know, ESG. Yeah.
Look, you've got to be careful saying that ESG is bullshit, because I don't believe it's bullshit. But what I do believe is ESG should be part of your business anyway.
I agree.
I did that stuff before it became a thing. Proper strategies for environmental diversity, sustainability, governance. That's part of being a good business. And I don't think it needs to be separated out as, oh, it's this ESG thing now. No, it's part of being a good business.
Well, the one that really gets me, to your point, is governance. I'm like, well, hang on, a company has a requirement of good governance. It's called the company law, you know, and they're like, oh yeah, but you know, you must have good. It's like, why are we adding another G? You know, that's what the company is. And I would agree, good business is caring about, you know, community, environment,
Absolutely.
all of that. You
Absolutely.
know? Very good. Sweat equity.
Yeah, that's business. You know, I'm an entrepreneur. I want people with me who want to be entrepreneurs. They don't have capital, fine. Then help me build a company and you'll earn some of it. Fine.
The only bad news for anyone who does sweat equity is that if people work for you in return for shares, actually that's a breach of minimum wage legislation. You know, you've got to pay them. And, you know, so it happens all the time, and it's very common, but actually don't go ask a lawyer about it, because the truth of it is that technically that's, a breach of minimum wage. You know, if they provided services, they should invoice for you. They should be taxed for their services.
I don't see it as instead of. People come and work with me and build a business, then I expect to pay them for that.
Okay.
And then the sweat equity is them accumulating shareholder value in that company.
I think generally sweat equity is, you know, done as, we will give you shares if you work for us. So that's quite common. You know, you do X, Y, and Z. So it works if that you found a business together, because then you can all sort of work together and build the thing. That's okay. That's not like breaching any laws. But if someone comes along and says, all right, you can get X amount of shares if you do Y and you work, you know, I mean, irritatingly, technically, that's got all these tax problems with, which doesn't really make any sense in some ways because it's so common. But anyway, I'm going off into accounting land. NDAs.
They are business.
Have you ever seen anyone defend an NDA?
No, and I've never seen anybody taken through a court process and lose on an NDA. I mean, it's kind of asking people to be honest, but they are endemic. They are used left and right, and I'm used to them. But I'd rather shake your hand and look you in the eye and say, let's keep this between us.
My word is my bond.
Yeah.
AIM, alternative investment market. Do you
Yeah,
ever have
that's
any-
business. Yeah, that's business.
Have you floated any companies?
No, I have not, and I do not want to.
And is that on purpose?
Yeah,
Just because you don't want the regulation, or
I don't want the hassle.
yeah. Do you think the stock market and stuff like that is the wrong move for all companies, or?
I don't think it's the wrong move for all companies, but I think I build small companies that become medium companies, and I'm in no rush to go and float them.
Yeah. Okay. I find it very interesting now how it's really becoming almost a rarity that people float them, and it's not necessarily a great experience. Another one that you must have done, Christmas bonuses.
Yeah, that's business. I mean, I don't call them Christmas bonuses. I call them year-end bonuses. I mean, at Porsche, we couldn't afford bonuses. So here's a story. So what we did, we had 597 people in the team. And I know that because the bonus we did was I got everybody together and said, thank you very much. You know, the business improved a lot. I can't pay you a bonus. But what I've done, and while everybody was in the room, we went and laid out 200, because 200 people in this particular office. We laid out 200 gifts And it was the same gift for everybody. And what we'd done through the years, we'd found out everyone's jacket size, and we had commissioned a special jacket that you couldn't buy. It was a Porsche jacket, but you couldn't buy it, and it said Team 597 on it.
Nice.
And that was the bonus. And people were more excited about that than they would have been about me giving them 200 quid. Because you can't buy that jacket. And I've still got mine. And I know people have still got theirs because I see them occasionally. I still live in the area of Porsche. And people say, still got my jacket. So, bonus.
It's also a play on 957, isn't it? Or 5, yeah.
Yeah. It's a way of saying thank you.
We'll do a couple more. I don't know, we're asking how someone is before any kind of interaction. So the fact you sort of say, how are you? How are you?
I'm going to give you an edge onto that because it's just kind of how we speak. It's, hey, how you doing? How's life?
Yeah.
I mean, I do say to people, hi, how are you? How are you doing?
It's how we start a chat.
It's how we start a chat.
Yeah.
If you ask me about so as a first word, I'd say that's bullshit.
People start sentences with so.
So, yeah, that's a nonsense.
I hate the when you come back from holiday and stuff when I've got so much to do and everyone I meet, so how was your holiday? That's I'm like, yeah, it was fine. I've realized people just give people an anecdote. They just need and they're not interested. They just give them something. Asking favors.
Bullshit.
Interesting.
Well, look, I get asked a lot to help people with certain things. And I've only got so many hours in the day. And I do try to be generous with people. And it doesn't have to be I'm not expecting it to be a commercial transaction, but could you just do me a favor? I mean, honestly, a number of times I've been asked for a free book. There's no such thing as a free book. I print those. I wrote them and I print them. And it cost me an amount of money. Just give us a book. And I get people writing to me saying, Kev, I met you once can you send me a book, please? I just go on Amazon, mate. You can buy one. You can buy one. They're 20 quid or whatever they are. You can buy one on Amazon. Yeah, but I thought, it's like, it just cheeses me off, to be honest.
It's generally people who ask you favors who haven't got a right to ask you a favor. A good friend, a close friend asking you a favor, whatever, man, what do you need?
Yeah, exactly. I'd walk to the end of the earth for somebody if that need arose, but just, do us a favor.
Yeah. It's always, I always find it's the friend of a friend that I sort of know that asks me something that's actually quite a big favor. I want you to introduce me to this person that's a really close relationship. It's a bit, I can't just throw anyone at this person. That damages my brand.
Do you know the one I still get? Kev, I've got a mate who wants to buy a Porsche. Can you get him a discount? I still get that today. And it's 25 years since I left Porsche. Kev, and I said...
And even when you were there, it's like, I mean, if you're my best friend, maybe, it's like...
I said, I've just bought myself a Porsche and I didn't get a discount. Oh, really? No, I didn't. And I didn't ask for one. I didn't walk in and say, hey, do you know who I am? Do you know I used to run this thing? No.
Yeah, it's nonsense. It's nonsense. All right, we'll end on this one. E-meetings. I guess the whole non-in-person meeting. You're a real in-person man or you're...
So they are business. I mean, look, the pandemic forced us all onto virtual meetings. I live in the middle of nowhere. I live south of in Hampshire.
Did you start living there because of virtual meetings? Or
No.
I've
lived in that area for 20 years, but certain virtual meetings saved me a lot of time.
Yeah.
But I absolutely passionately believe you need a physical meeting. You need to meet your customers. You need to meet your colleagues. I do not believe in 5-day-a-week home working. I just don't believe in it. I just don't. I think it will gradually destroy the fabric of the company because, if Pep Guardiola said to his team, I tell you what, boys, we'll play on Sunday, right? Now, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, go kick the ball around on your lawn at home. Try a few keepy uppies and do this. And Thursday, we'll have a beer together. And then Friday, take the day off. And then Saturday, come in and play. People say, what? You can't do that. No, you can't do it in business either. The transfer of ideas, the transfer of knowledge, we speaking and reaching a better place because we are debating something is a key part of the creativity of business. So I'm sorry, I'm an old-fashioned in-the-office guy.
You can't have a whinge wall, can you? What are they going to do? No. Recreate it at home?
But you know what? If somebody wants a day to do their admin, that's fine. And also, I'll tell you what I passionately believe in. If it's the kids' school, just go. Go to the school. sports day. Don't mark it down as holiday. Just go. Just go and take the time. Take your wife out. Do this, do that. Just go and do it. Because I know you'll give that time back over the year. And I'm not measuring it. I don't want to measure it. But you want to work at home 5 days a week? No thanks.
Yeah, it's well said. You just wonder what is the culture of a business if no one ever comes in? You know, what is the
you
culture?
You haven't got one.
Yeah.
You don't have one.
I mean, people are like, no, you can do it. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was pointed out that there are some people who, this is a guy who worked at Microsoft, you know, some people maybe who shouldn't come to the office, you know, some people who are really on the spectrum or, you know, just like really antisocial, or you have some people in a business, who cause problems, you know, but maybe are really good at X, you know. So maybe there's examples of someone you might say, actually, that person is best just to deliver that thing, but they don't really want a culture.
That's 0.01% of the population.
Yeah, true. Kevin, you've been absolutely brilliant. I've really enjoyed talking to you. Thanks so much for making the time. Anything final you want to share with the world or reference? Go buy his book.
No, you can
go buy Kev's book.
Go buy Kev's book. And get something from it. When I say, I give some of these away when I speak at conferences. I give out 3 or 4 and I say to people, take it. And I usually choose them by saying, whose birthday is it today? Oh, right, here you go, have a book. I say, and take it and read it and write in it. Write in things that appeal to you or ideas, and then give it to somebody else. And let the ideas bounce around the business. Use it as a promoter of discussion because, as I say, there's 80 business lessons in there. Take 2 of them and do something with it.
Very nice.
Go improve your business with it.
Very nice. Thank you, Kevin.
Or your life.
Or your life. I think we could all do that at all times. So thank you very much. That was this week's episode of Business Without Bullshit. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Dee. Thank you, Romeo. We'll be back with our quiz, Business or Bullshit, on Thursday. Until then, it's ciao. Thank you.
Thank you.